The BTCC is back, and is it better than ever? Let's have a little bit of a chat about the first event at the Donington National Circuit, and some of the storylines that developed over the weekend. Firstly, Ford were in really fine form over the course of the event. The driver out of the team that probably struggled the most was Sam Osborne. Contact in the first race forced him out of the second race, but had a decent recovery drive in race 3. However, the two Dans were in good form. Dan Cam had a very good race 2, whilst Robo had a particularly strong race 1. Both of them relatively consistent in race 3 as well. I mean, we ended up seeing a pole position, didn't we, for Robo for the first race. But the person who was in the best form for the Ford camp was arguably, and unsurprisingly probably, Ash Sutton, winning the first 2 races. Good launch off the line in race 1, and then in race 2 he just held on from Tom Ingram. It was slightly different in that the ways that the safety cars fell and how restarts happened, and also the use of the new for 2025 boost system impacted racing was decisive in how the races ended. But even then, in race 3, still delivered a fine performance to come home, the points leader quite comfortably, getting 3 podiums on the day. Likewise, Hyundai ended up picking up a couple of honours over the course of the day as well. It was perhaps surprising that Tom Ingram didn't win, given how well he performed over the course of the weekend as well. Almost as well as Ash Sutton did, though qualifying was arguably the greatest separating factor between the two over the course of the day. Tom Chilton was the one that picked up the win, however, as Adam Morgan had a unlucky start to the weekend, start to his return in front-wheel drive cars, but picked up over the course of the remainder of the day and finished really strongly in race 3. Whilst Michael Crease, on his return, he's part-time this season, with Senna Proctor taking over halfway through, seemed to end up off the track on the pit straight more often than anyone else. It was frankly bizarre. I mean, was it race 2 where he collected the hoarding on the side of the track? Or was it race 1 where it was almost like a Mugello 2020 style restart, just tried to gain the safety car restart and just flew through some boarding? Meanwhile, Toyota seemed to have some kinds of turmoil over the course of the weekend. Flash Gordon Shedden, his first races back, ended up being bullied quite a bit around the track, some of which by newer drivers such as series debutant Max Hall, but delivered a respectable finish in race 3. Aaron Taylor-Smith, the headline signing over the off-season, who scored points in every single BTCC round in 2024, failed to score in the first round in 2025, and I think, did he fail to score in race 2 as well? Ended up with all kinds of different reliability issues. They weren't of his own doing, but they were issues that forced him out. And then race 3 was able to show the form that we saw with the PMR Vauxhall last year. Ronan Pearson had a couple of struggles in the first 2 races and was quite dependable in race 3, whilst rookie James Dorlin had not the best debut in the BTCC, but was able to pick up and slowly increased in form over the course of the weekend. So, really well done for the recent graduate into the BTCC. And rounding it off, last but not least, BMW. Their weekend was, well, a little bit of everything, really. Jake Hill was the standout star, and race 2 was arguably the better race of the weekend for him. Race 3, there was a lot of beating and banging, him getting shuffled around even by his own teammates, as Aidan Moffat came back as the star BMW driver in race 3. And to be fair, Moffat was quite dependable over the whole weekend, just consistently bringing home points. The 2 new drivers for BMW in Rainford and De Leon had mixed fortunes. Puncher for Rainford at one point. De Leon was arguably the strongest in race 2, but in race 3 found himself amongst the former outfit that he was running alongside of Restart Racing, as well as the former car that he was driving of the Cupra Leon. But yeah, Rainford also a graduate to the BTCC this year. Quite a quiet debut in the BTCC. Meanwhile, all the independents had their own massive canon story and everything like that. In the Cupras, Patterson had a really good first 2 races, but was out in race 3. Max Hall was really good at the start, and the Mini Graduate was happy to get his shoulders out. Got into a bit of a war with Gordon Shedden later on. I mentioned that earlier when I was talking about Toyota. For Restart Racing, their transition across the Hyundai has seemed to yield some good results. Chris Smiley was in fantastic form, whilst Dan Lloyd had some rotten luck with unreliability and just wrong place, wrong time in terms of contact. His off-track excursion at the end of race 3 ended up with the Hyundai billowing out smoke. Just a sad end for a weekend that showed some good potential, but he just wasn't able to deliver fully on it. In the Hondas, on their return, Josh Cook was able to have some good runs in race 1 and race 3. And in race 3, it was coming from right down the back because in race 2, he'd been forced out by a puncher, while Stephen Jelly was delivering some results over the course of the race. At the same time, Mikey Doble showed that Astra has improved over the off-season and put in some good performances. I think race 1 and race 3 were particularly strong. And Nick Hamilton managed to bring the Cupra home in all 3 of the races. I think the first 2 he was not on the lead lap, and the third one he was. And it's, as always, really good to see someone like Hamilton on the grid where he is competing against his own body to even be on the grid. He's been doing really well and is an absolutely wonderful role model for people with cerebral palsy. I want to wrap up a little bit by talking about Goodyear's tyres, because the softs we saw punches with in race 1 and race 2. Left sides, and it was particularly left fronts of the front wheel drives and the rear wheel drives in the case of, for example, Rainford. It was the left rear that let go. And it's slightly different to the issues we've seen before. Typically, the issues were in higher temperatures, and it's probably why we didn't see so much in race 3, because the track was slightly cooler in race 3. But I remember, what was it? I think it was still Dunlop with the tyre suppliers here. 2020 Brands Hatch, when we were seeing the calendar a lot more contracted and condensed, and we saw so much more running in the heat of the summer. I remember the Brands Hatch race, I'm pretty sure it was Brands Indy. We saw, I think, all of the Fords have failures over the course of the weekend, and multiple of them in one race as well. It was nice to see that these failures were kept relatively to a minimum, but contrasting to the last couple of seasons at Donington, we didn't really see that much the last 2 years at Donington National. Now, that might have been because they were washout weekends with rain delays and most racing happening in the wet, but it might be something to watch out for as the season progresses. Anyways, those are my thoughts, those are my feelings, those are my observations. Thank you so much for watching and joining, folks, and let me know any of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Until next time, it's bye-bye for now.